Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rux, I'm Western Tropical Astrologer, and today we are going to be talking about the new moon in Leo. This is coming up on the 24th of July. It is happening at 10 minutes past 7 p.m. GMT time, so of course you can adjust that for your own time zone. The new moon is taking place at 2 degrees 8 minutes of Leo. So who's going to feel this the most? What signs are going to feel this lunation the most? Those of you who have planets or angles or important points, such as the North Node, at, let's say, 1 to 3 degrees of the following signs: Leo, obviously, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. There are going to be some people who will like this new moon more than others. I am talking to those of you who have planets or angles around 1 to 3 degrees of Aries, Gemini, Libra, and Sagittarius. The new moon is going to form a harmonious aspect with your natal planetary placements. Now, what am I talking about? Maybe some of you are here for the very first time. I'm talking about how this new moon activates your natal chart. The natal chart is the map of the sky at the time when you were born. In order to generate your natal chart, you need your date, time, and place of birth, and you can essentially input these details online on websites such as astro.com or astro-seek. And once you put in your details, the time of birth, by the way, is super important. You will have generated your natal chart, and that's going to show you your ascendant. It's going to show you the positions of your planets, degrees wise. I do recommend using resources such as websites or even applications that generate the natal chart in a circle format, because that is what we work with in astrology. So if you use apps or websites that just give you sort of like a table format, I'm not a big fan of those. So in the natal chart, astrological events unfolding in the sky as we speak, they activate. What does that mean? They form angles with our natal placements. Not everything that goes on in the sky is going to be impacting us. We will not feel everything, which is why I always make a point of saying, hey, folks, if you have planets at this degree, or at your ascendant or your midheaven at these degrees, you are going to feel this astrological event. Now, this might be too much technical information and you can absolutely ignore it if you're not interested in it, but I have seen a trend of people learning astrology, trying to understand astrology, and this is essentially the best starting point. Your natal chart, the list of planets and angles at the various degrees, and then you can sort of like keep track of what goes on in the sky and see how that plays out in your own life. Now let's go back to this new moon. The new moon is happening whilst Mercury is retrograde. What does that tell us? It tells us that even though a new moon is, symbolically speaking, a new beginning, a fresh start, it is the seed moment of a new endeavor or of something kicking off in our lives, either in a louder way or in a more subtle way. Mercury retrograde is telling us that we're basically going to be experiencing a fresh start that brings back to our attention something from the past, an element from the past. So let me give you an example. Leo, from an archetypal perspective, is a very creative energy. So this new moon could be the perfect time for us to revisit old creative projects and give them a new life, a new lease of life. Revisit them, reevaluate what we would like to maybe keep, what we would like to discard, and bring them back to life. So a new look for an old creative project might be the perfect way to utilize this this energy. Again, with Mercury retrograde, people from the past might come back to our attention. Projects from the past might come back to our attention. Information from the past might come back to our attention. We might also be able to utilize, for example, information or relationships, contacts, connections that we've had access to for a long time. We might finally be able to utilize one or maybe several of these in a novel way. So we might be able to include them in this fresh start that the new moon is bringing to our attention. In terms of the aspects that the new moon is forming, okay, so it's a bit of a mixed one, bit of a mixed bag. On the one hand, I love the fact that we are seeing a trine in the sky from the new moon to Saturn and to Neptune. We've got a fire trine unfolding. What does that tell me? It tells me that this new moon is probably going to feel very filled with enthusiasm, and we might feel very energized, and we might feel excited, we might feel exuberant, we might be very driven to forge ahead. We might have this sort of feeling of excitement that takes over. I'm also liking the combination between the Leo energy and the Saturn sort of commitment, the Saturnian commitment, the Saturnian discipline. So we are essentially able to bring into this fresh start in our lives a high degree of commitment, a high degree of structure, a high degree of discipline. We're willing to make the effort. We're willing to put in the work for the long term. So that's what I love. I'm also liking, obviously, the trine to Neptune. So we are probably going to see an increased dose of, let's call it imagination, let's call it inspiration, plugging into the energy of this new moon. Neptune is also very strongly associated with our ideals. It's associated with whatever transcends the 3D reality, our higher ideals. It's also associated with our spiritual path. So we might be very inspired by higher ideals to take action in a direction that is aligned with our heart, and that we're willing to commit to for the long term. So inspired new beginning with a significant dose of realism and pragmatism plugged in. It feels like we're essentially bringing a creative idea into the 3D reality, and we're not just receiving the sort of vision and the inspiration from some sort of a higher, maybe channel. We're also willing to put in the work. Hey, thank you, Saturn. Thank you so much. Now, I keep on saying new beginning, new beginning, new beginning. Obviously, that is the energy of the new moon, but Saturn and Neptune being in Aries also bring to our attention the fact that we are essentially working on building a new structure in our lives. There is this sort of energy of freshness and novelty, the courage of youth. I wanna say the higher ideals and the dreams of youth. I like it. I mean, I'm very partial to the fire energy because it makes us passionate about life. It makes us happy to be alive. It makes us hopeful. It gives us confidence, and confidence is a keyword for the time of this new moon. We are probably going to feel confident in the fresh start that we are embracing, or that we are bringing to life, that we are creating in our lives. I also like the fact that the new moon is in a harmonious aspect to Uranus. So Uranus in Gemini brings in the innovative ideas, the progressive ideas, the sort of revolutionary ways of thinking. What maybe a tiny little bit more challenging at the time of this new moon is the opposition to Pluto. Basically, something needs to be destroyed, something needs to, metaphorically speaking, die in order for us to embark upon this new journey. So we have to be willing to transform a specific sector of our lives. We have to be willing to bury something. We have to be willing to break away from something that potentially might have had a lot of power over us. So is it gonna feel scary? Yes, it will feel scary. I I can confirm. Yes, it shall be scary. At a collective level, what can we expect at the time of this new moon? New leadership, basically. I mean, we're talking about the Leo energy. We are talking about new leaders, charismatic leaders, confident leadership, bold leadership, courageous leadership, leadership with revolutionary ideas. But this new leadership may somehow kind of like throw us back into the past as well. Maybe we've thought about this person rising through the ranks before. Maybe we've seen them rise through the ranks before. Maybe they're bringing back to our attention some ideas that they've promoted like a while ago, but no one took note of them. So now the people are ready. New leadership also following the destruction or the dismantling of a community or of an organization. There is a very high possibility that an organization might fall apart. We might see organizations falling apart. Groups of people, certain groups of people might dismantle in some shape or form, and we can look to, essentially we can look to, I apologize, I have like a bee here, like next to me, and I'm trying to get rid of it. And alas, the bee does not want to leave. So here I am trying to like shoo it away. Pluto and Aquarius being in opposition to the new moon is saying that some organizations are not going to stay as they are. On the contrary, they might experience a radical sort of like transformation or some sort of a radical dismantling. I mean, dismantling is very transformative, isn't it? Also at a collective level, the spotlight might be placed on generally rulers, leaders, kings, central sort of like authority figures, as well as on celebrities, stars, CEOs, on the entertainment industry, on the creative industries in general, on the fun industries. What are those? I mean, I could also potentially bring up gambling amongst these. Archetypally speaking, Leo is very strongly attuned to the energy of gambling. Also, this new moon encourages us to express ourselves, to be bold and loud and dramatic and exuberant and in people's faces. And are we gonna see characters like that, including in the spotlight? Yes, 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 yes. Speaking of the spotlight is yours. I mean, it belongs to all of us in some shape or form, and we might feel like we are stepping into the spotlight in some shape or form in certain aspects of our life. Of course, I'm going to go into the updates for each of the 12 zodiac signs, and we're going to talk about how that can materialize for you. A new beginning from the heart is how I would summarize this lunation. Before we go into the updates for each of the 12 zodiac signs, I want to maybe share this for the first time with those of you who haven't been watching my videos up until this point, or to remind those who have been here for some time, following me on this astrological journey, that I'm a full-time consulting astrologer. And if you want to work with me, you can find me on my website, which is also in the pinned comment, as well as in the description box. It's written in the stars-astrology.com. Why would you find me? Why should you find me? In order to book a personal astrological consultation. So my I don't even want to call it my specialty because I've been practicing astrology for over 13 years. I've been a full-time astrologer for over 5 years, and before that, I've started working with clients since 2016. My focus is on natal chart interpretation, but also on forecasting, which is why I create this kind of content for you folks, so we can look together at the opportunities of the upcoming year, challenges, how you can make the most of the current cosmic cycle that you're in. I also focus in my work on vocational astrology, so if you want to figure out what would be the career path that would fulfill you the most, what are your talents, your resources, what are your lessons in the professional space, I do that with my clients in our sessions together. In my sessions, I also cover compatibility, how you can essentially improve your relationship sector, and we can also focus on the dynamics that you're likely to experience within a specific relationship. So those would probably be the big ones. Oh, and I almost forgot, relocation astrology, including astrocartography, but also relocated charts, is something that I do as well as part of my practice. For existing clients, I also offer electional astrology services, so selecting the most auspicious time and date to launch a business, to get married, to do something big. We believe in astrology in how should we call it, the mantra, as above so below. So when something is born, metaphorically speaking, at a specific moment in time, it will carry with it the energy of the moment of birth, which is why it is important to start things and to begin things at a specific moment in time. I think it was Judith Hill that said, when the arrow has left the bow, it has already traced its arc. That's how astrology works. So you can find me on my website. By the way, just so you know, when you make the payment for an astrological consultation, for a booking, the waiting time, so from the moment that you make the payment to us actually meeting online via Zoom, and by the way, we also record video sessions so that you can go back to them, the waiting time is approximately a month. There is an emergency reading option also on my website, so if you want to meet sooner, if you don't want to wait a month, you can use that service. Now, without further ado, let us go into the updates for each of the 12 zodiac signs. And of course, we are going to start off with the one, the only, Aries. Aries suns and Aries risings. Let's see, my lovely Aries, what is going on at the time of this new moon? Give me 1 second. Fantastic, here we are. So 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We've got a new one in your fifth house, so some sort of a new beginning, fresh start, new chapter that is somehow kind of like throwing you back into the past a little bit, when it comes to one of the following topics: romantic love, creative projects, children, fun, enjoyment, entertainment, your passions and hobbies. There is a possibility that you might decide to give someone from your past a chance, romantically speaking. So maybe it didn't work out the first time, maybe things didn't turn out as you expected them to turn out, but hey, you've grown, this person has grown, and you might feel ready to show up differently somehow in the interaction with this person. You might also go back to an old passion or hobby, and this time you bring with you a high degree of maturity, a high degree of commitment, a higher level of consistency and discipline. So you might actually commit to some sort of a long-term goal when it comes to one of your passions and hobbies, my dear Aries. I also feel like you're ready to express yourselves creatively in a new way in your professional life. When I say in a new way, maybe you've wanted to do this for a while. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you are a personal trainer and you've been meaning to launch a YouTube channel for a while and you've been thinking about it, but for whatever reason you haven't done it, or you've been held back by life, by all sorts of other developments, and now you're saying, I'm doing it. I am going for it. I do believe you might also potentially start working with, some of you might start working with children in a new way. Some of you might bring in your newfound experience into maybe one of your own creative projects. I feel like your relationship with yourself is also changing, Aries, especially for Aries risings. You seem to appreciate yourselves more. You seem to give yourselves more credit. You seem to feel more confident. And as a result, you're enjoying life more, including your work. Now, there is a possibility that you might be parting ways. You might be saying goodbye. You might be disconnecting at the time of this new moon from a community, a group of people, an organization, or just kind of like saying goodbye to an old target audience, let's say. So maybe you're running your own business and you've decided, hey, I'm no longer going to collaborate with these people. I'm just going to work on this specific like niche, and I have to say goodbye to these clients. A friendship is going through a total reset, and I do believe that one friendship in particular is being challenged, maybe because you feel like potentially they've betrayed you, or potentially they are no longer the person who you enjoyed spending time with. Taurus suns and Taurus risings. New moon in Leo, 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after. A new beginning, but again, this seems to be sort of like connected with the past somehow. So maybe it's a new beginning that you've postponed, a new beginning that you've delayed, a new beginning that you've been meaning to step into for a while, happening in your home life, your family life, your private life, maybe even in your real estate sector. So some of you could finally be moving into that new home after a lot of back and forth. Some of you could finally maybe find a buyer for the house that you've put on the market for a long time. Some of you could finally experience that massive, I'm like trying to use all of these big words, that massive transformation in your home life that you've been preparing for a while. Maybe you've been working on it behind the scenes. Maybe you've been kind of like diligently like cleaning up your life and sort of like preparing for this moment. And now the new beginning is here, and you need to share this with the world. You need to share the news with the world. You need to maybe share this with also your boss. Maybe you need to kind of like share that you're moving to a different country, that you're moving to a different city, and that might actually change your career trajectory. I feel like whatever fresh start you're experiencing at home in private is impacting dramatically your professional life, or your public life, or your public status, or the image that the world has of you, or your sort of like duties and responsibilities towards society, let's say. Some Taurus risings might also see one of their parents or family members in general go through a complete sort of like reset of their lives. So maybe one of your parents is retiring, or one of your siblings. It could be a sibling, it could be a family member. One of your siblings is completely sort of like changing their career path from like, it's such a huge shift from like day to night. So it does feel very significant. It does feel very transformative. So someone in your family is completely transforming their life. You do seem to be excited for them. You might even be able to support them in some shape or form. But this is big. This is pretty big as it gets. My dear Geminis, Gemini suns, Gemini risings. 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a new moon in Leo. whilst Mercury is retrograde. So I feel like you're getting news, Geminis, but the news might be that you have to wait. The news might be that you're gonna get your fresh start. You're gonna start off this new project. You're gonna start working with these new people. You're gonna start this new collaborative project. Maybe you're gonna start this new class, this new course, this new writing project, this new maybe project that involves communication, speaking in public. But maybe it's not starting just yet. So it's sort of like on your to-do list, on your timeline. You know what the next steps are. You know what's coming up next, but it's not coming now, immediately, let's say, before you go into this fresh start, which might involve speaking, communicating, collaborating with an organization, with a community of people, before you start this new project. Maybe it's a writing project also. I believe you have some sort of like loose ends that you need to tie up first and foremost. I also believe you might need to detach yourselves, Geminis, maybe. This could be symbolic, maybe from an old worldview, from an old life philosophy, from an old set of beliefs, but maybe also from an organization of a political nature or of a legal sort of like nature or of a spiritual nature. So you might have to like say goodbye to that organization so that you can move forward with your life. I feel like you're starting to learn to communicate in a new way somehow, and to a certain extent, you might need to be very sort of like cautious and careful with what you say so that you do not maybe inadvertently insult or say the wrong thing that could get you into trouble, especially when you're talking about sensitive topics such as politics, for example. There is a possibility that a new teacher, a new trainer, a new coach might come into your life, and they're probably going to completely shift your way of thinking. Lots of meetings, lots of connections, potentially also connections from the past coming back to your attention at this point in time. You might need to take a short trip, my dear Geminis. And also, I would be aware of the fact that you might need to change your travel plans because there's like new opportunities coming up, or because an opportunity from the past that did not materialize at that point is now on the brink of materializing. So, for example, if you had, I don't know, like a holiday planned, I mean, obviously it's the summer, so some people might be going on holiday, you might need to maybe postpone it a little bit, or just kind of like miss your flight and travel there a tiny little bit later, because you cannot be missing this opportunity, I'd say. Friendship is supporting you in this on this new path, on this new journey. Everyone's very enthusiastic. You're feeling excited, but also do address maybe any sort of like legal kind of like practicalities that need to be addressed so that things flow properly. That would be my recommendation. My dear Cancerians, Cancer suns and Cancer risings. My lovely Cancerians, I am a Cancer rising myself, so fellow Cancerians, what's going on at the time of this new moon? I mean, I like it, and I also have to give you a heads up about the things that I don't like. First and foremost, there is a possibility that your financial sector is getting a boost, a new lease of life. Why? How? Where is this coming from? You may actually go back to collaborating with someone that you've worked with in the past. Potentially, maybe like an old employer or an old business partner is reaching out to you and they're saying, hey, let's work on this thing. Let's work on this creative project together. Let's turn this into a regular sort of like collaboration, maybe for the next year. I want to pay you how much? more than before. I do believe you can essentially see a boost in terms of finances, and your confidence is also getting a massive boost, because things seem to be sort of like falling into the right places when it comes to your financial sector, and when it comes to your professional life. Maybe something that you've taken a massive gamble on is finally paying off. Maybe something that you've taken a big risk with is finally paying off. Maybe something that was sort of like slow to begin with from a financial and professional perspective is now starting to take off. Woohoo! Um, what could be the challenging part? You may need to pay off some debt. You may need to pay off some taxes. If you're starting a collaboration with someone from the past, my recommendation would be to potentially reread the legal implications, reread the contract, revisit the contractual and like legal side of things, because there could be some sort of like hidden financial aspects that you don't notice, or that you don't even pay attention to, because you are so excited about like throwing yourselves in and going full speed ahead with this project. I also feel like you are finally able, Cancerians, to distance yourselves from something that has caused a lot of stress, a lot of fear, a lot of anguish in the past, when it comes to your sense of self-worth, when it comes to your sense of self-esteem. You might also distance yourselves from some people that have been feeding your insecurities. And there is also a possibility that you might decide to completely transform your approach to joint investments, joint maybe like expenses, joint bank accounts, joint resources. You might decide to take a radically different stance. I would recommend sitting down and like talking it through with your partner. Let's say if you used to, I don't know, pay for things, I don't know, like 50-50, or that's just an example. You may want to revisit that. You may want to do things differently. So I feel like the topic of joint resources, including expenses, by the way, I know an expense is not a resource, but in astrology, the 8th house, I'm looking at Cancer risings, does cover all of these topics. The topic of joint resources is probably going to be on the spotlight, and it is going through a reset of some sorts. Some of you could also be cashing in on some of your existing investments. You might sell some stuff. This is not financial advice, by the way. Please take this information, take it on board for entertainment purposes only. You are completely responsible for what you do with your money. Some Cancer risings might consider that this is a good time, and it could actually be a good time to sell some of your existing assets, to sell some of your existing maybe investments, and you could make a significant win. I'm liking it. I'm liking how things are looking financially. I'm liking how things are looking professionally. I'm also liking the fact that something sort of like sudden and unexpected is giving you a professional boost, something that was completely outside of your control, Cancerians. And now let us move on to the stars of this lunation, Leos. Leo suns, Leo risings. 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This new moon is putting the spotlight on you, your identity, how you show up in the world, your sense of self. Leos, it is time to go back and to do what you said you would do for yourselves. To go back and to make that long-term commitment towards investing more in yourselves, towards investing more into your education, towards investing more into your self-development, towards investing more into your kind of like tapping into your full potential. But also possibly this could be a good time to do what you said you would do. So you've had this idea before. And to revisit your relationship with the physical body and potentially hire maybe a coach or a therapist or maybe a personal trainer to help you transform the relationship that you have with your body, to help you kind of like feel more confident in your own skin. I do believe you are feeling very confident in your own skin. I am going to say it. I do believe you are very enthusiastic about what the future holds. I believe you've got very good reasons to be enthusiastic for what the future holds, because all of a sudden the future seems to look very bright. Leos. And why do I say all of a sudden? Because you're getting some sort of an unexpected piece of news. It feels like a lucky breakthrough. Maybe you didn't think this would ever happen, or maybe you thought it would happen much later. And now it's almost as if the universe has kind of like accelerated the timeline for one of your goals and objectives. And you have to say, okay, do I jump? Do I take a leap of faith? Do I make a commitment towards materializing this objective fully? Some of you may travel for work purposes around this time, or may strengthen a relationship in the professional sector with someone who is based possibly abroad. Some of you might start collaborating or restart the collaboration with an ex sort of like business partner. I do feel like you're starting to see much clearer what is important to you and what is no longer serving you from a mentality perspective within your relationship sector. Speaking of relationships, one particular relationship may actually go through a dramatic transformation at the time of this new moon. You might decide to cut someone out of your life. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It could be your, I don't know, existing accountant, let's say, or your old therapist. You might also uncover some things about an important person in your life. It could be a partner, it could be a life partner, it could be a business partner, it could be a coach, it could be a mentor, it could be someone who you looked up to. And as much as maybe the information that you're uncovering is not necessarily sort of like pleasant or happy, for whatever reason, it seems to help you trust yourselves more. So there is a win out of this whole thing. You might also finally make a commitment to be more open, be more direct, be more expressive, Leos, when it comes to standing up for and defending what you believe in, even if that means alienating certain people, then so be it, in the name of authenticity. Not everyone is meant to be by your side, I'd say. And the relationships that can sort of like stand the test of authenticity, of authentic expression on your end, are probably going to be in your life for a long, long time. So some relationships might even become stronger as a result of this. And that is Leo. My dear Virgos, Virgo suns, Virgo risings, 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We have a new moon in your 12th house. Mercury is in retrograde there as well. The new moon is in a harmonious aspect to Saturn and to Neptune, which I really like, but it is opposing Pluto. So let me expand. Let me explain, so to speak. First and foremost, you may decide to put more effort into I know that sounds maybe a little bit counterintuitive, Virgos, but you might actually decide to create more room, more space in your day-to-day life for activities that are fun, that make you happy, that are enjoyable, potentially for relaxation, potentially for spending time with loved ones, potentially for spending time with children, which I realize are loved ones. You might decide to clean up your life, to clean up your routine, to clean up your day-to-day, Virgos, in such a way that there is room for enjoyment, in such a way that there is room for maybe your passions and hobbies, in such a way that there is more room for fun. And once again, I feel like you've been maybe thinking about this. Maybe you've been trying to do this. Maybe it's been on your radar for a while, but maybe it felt like it was never the right time. And you seem to be getting that sort of like nudge, that sort of like push from the universe saying, hey, spend time with your kids. Or hey, do the thing that you like to do. Explore your passions and hobbies. There's no time like the present. I feel like you are getting a sense of relief and you are releasing something from your lives, Virgos, that was maybe very unhealthy. Maybe it was a habit, maybe it was a fear, maybe it was something that was stressing you out, maybe it was sort of like caring too much about your work, caring too much about doing things the right way, the accurate way, the best way. You might let go of that, and lo and behold, you're more relaxed, you're sleeping better, you're more chilled, your mental health is getting a bit of a boost. I'm liking all of this. There could also be some sort of like massive creative inspiration that comes to you, Virgos, when you're sleeping or when you're relaxing or when you're essentially just sort of like enjoying life, having fun, and giving yourselves permission to be playful. So you could have that aha moment when you're actually not looking for it. That is sometimes the beauty of life. We find what we're looking for when we're not actively looking for it, when we just let it go. I also believe that some of you could be experiencing some aha moments in private in terms of what's been holding you back, in terms of how you've been sabotaging yourselves, in terms of the limits that you've been placing upon yourselves. And you're probably going to take this revelation, let's call it, Virgos, and apply it in your day-to-day life to transform your approach to daily habits, daily routines, work, potentially, all of that. There is a possibility some of you could start some sort of work behind the scenes, and it's almost kind of like something that you're doing in preparation for your next chapter professionally, but maybe you're not yet sharing it with the outside world, because if the outside world found out, maybe you would get into trouble in your existing workplace. So you have to kind of like keep it under the radar for the time being, at least. My dear Libras, Libra suns and Libra risings, new moon in your 11th house, 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after. You have to basically revisit your plans for the future, Libras, at this point in time. Now, there are some aspects about your future that you're probably excited about. You seem to have significant support from someone. It could be a life partner, it could be a business partner, it could be a family member. You seem to have significant support when it comes to some plans for the future. On the other hand, you might be completely transforming your vision for the future, Libras. You may have to let go of what you thought you would bring with you into the future. Maybe it was a specific collaboration, maybe it was a specific relationship, maybe it was a friendship, maybe it was a project that was close to your heart. That is probably going to, like, one of these is probably going to go through a process of dismantling, destruction. You might need to basically walk away from it. Now, I feel like some people might reveal their true colors, Libras, at the time of this new moon. And as much as maybe you've given them the benefit of the doubt in the past, maybe they've kind of shown you their true colors in the past, but you refuse to believe them. Now they are doing it again, and you cannot unsee it, and you might need to take a radical, radical sort of approach when it comes to who you keep in your circle moving forward. Because some people might just be sort of like plain toxic, and as much as you cared for them, as much as you kind of like gave them a chance, if it's not it is not it, let's say. Things are coming to the surface. You're not impressed. Some people are there for you. Some people are really kind of like trustworthy. Some people are really going to be there with you for the long term, but some people are just not going to be. And sometimes it can feel really disappointing to have invested in certain connections, friendship wise, romantically, and to see that they're not going to be there in your life for the long term. I feel like you might also be ready to present something to the outside world, Libras, that you've been sort of conceptualizing for a while, that you've been planning, that you've been mentally playing with, and now you are ready. Now you're going into the world and you're saying, ah, this is it. This is my creative baby that I'm eager to share with you. And for the most part, I do believe that the feedback is actually going to be really good. But not everyone is going to have the reaction that you want them to have, and that's okay. That is okay. We cannot please everyone as much as we try to. Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. 24th of July, active. 3 days before, 3 days after, we've got a new moon happening in your 10th house whilst Mercury is retrograde. So I feel like for some Scorpios, especially Scorpio risings, this new moon can bring in new leadership, new bosses, new managers, new supervisors. Maybe at a sort of like company level, there's new leadership with like new vision all together, and this new leadership is eager to innovate, to bring in new rules, new structures, new frameworks into your day-to-day life. For some Scorpios, this new moon can actually bring a promotion or an increase in status from a professional perspective, maybe something that has been on your radar, maybe something that you've been working really hard towards for a long time. Maybe it's been delayed for whatever reason, but now it's finally happening and you might be very proud of yourselves. I mean, you should be proud of yourselves. You are probably going to get some sort of like public acclaim. For some Scorpios, this new moon can also put the spotlight on new developments in the industry that you are active in from a professional perspective. And the sooner you kind of embrace is the word that I'm looking for. The sooner you embrace the novelty, the sooner you embrace the new rules, the sooner you embrace the new tools, the changes, the sooner you're gonna kind of like hit the ground running and see things play out in a stable, successful manner from a professional perspective. I do believe that a new beginning in the professional space, for many Scorpio risings especially, might bring with it a complete transformation in your home life and family life. So what does that mean? Maybe you're going to have to commute for longer. Maybe you're going to have to find, I don't know, like a babysitter for your child. Maybe you're going to have to make different arrangements when it comes to looking after a parent. Speaking of parents, for some Scorpio risings, a parent might experience a reset in their life. Their day-to-day might look very, very different. It could have something to do with their health. So maybe they need to commit to a new diet, to a new working out schedule, let's say. But once again, to me it looks like this has been on their radar, but maybe they've just been postponing it, and now it simply cannot be postponed. I wanna say. And that is Scorpio. My dear Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a new one in your 9th house. Coming together with, I mean, it's in the same sign, but essentially happening at the same time with Mercury retrograde. So, Sagittarians, this new moon might have you traveling or plan to travel to places that you've been to before. You might also have to travel in order to reconnect with people that you have collaborated in the past on the professional front. You might also have to revisit legal matters. Maybe there's been a change in legislation. Maybe there's been changes from a legal perspective that affect the way that you do business. So you might have to go back and say, okay, in light of these legal changes, what does that mean for my company? What does that mean for my business? What does that mean for my business partnerships? I feel like part of you is actually very excited about the travel aspect. Maybe the legal aspect is not necessarily that exciting because you might need to go back to your website, revisit your portfolio, revisit your maybe like terms and conditions. So there might be a lot of rewriting that you have to do, or like resubmitting paperwork, or just sort of like revisiting the way that you communicate in general. For some Sagittarius risings, this new moon is also going to put the spotlight on in-laws. If you are in a relationship, or if you're married, in-laws are sort of like front and center of your mind. They might have some big announcements. Their life might go through a rebirth of some sorts, a reset of some sorts. Speaking of resets, your worldview, your belief system, your life philosophy, and the way that you find meaning in life is probably going through a reset as well. Some of the things that you believed in, you might realize that they're no longer serving you. As a result, you might even like I feel like you might stop talking to some people. That I'm just gonna say it. Or you might communicate in a completely new way with some people, and maybe you're not necessarily thrilled at having to face them and have maybe some difficult conversations. But what does seem to happen is you are very confident in what you believe in. You're very confident in terms of where you stand from a mentality perspective. I also believe that for some Sagittarius risings, especially those of you who have children, this new moon can bring in some sort of a delayed start. Maybe it's a start that was sort of like postponed, a delayed fresh start when it comes to your children's education. So maybe you've wanted to, I don't know, sign them up to Spanish classes, and you've been meaning to do that for a while, and you've been postponing it, and now it's finally happening. You're doing it. You're like, come on, let's sign you up to Spanish classes. For example, that is just one example. New beginning educationally can be a significant theme at the time of this new moon. Sagittarians, especially Sagittarius risings, not just for you, but also for those of you who have children. The thing is, you might change your mind. Or how should I put it? You might have thought that you would go down one path, or you might have thought that your kid is going to go down one specific route from an educational perspective. So maybe they said, oh, I'm going to go to this college. I'm going to sign up for this university. If I get accepted into this program, that's what I'm going to be studying. And lo and behold, they've changed their mind, or you've changed your mind. So I would be prepared for experiences of this nature. Capricorns, Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This new moon is putting the spotlight on your financial axis, Capricorns. I feel like you're expecting news. I feel like you're expecting some sort of a fresh start when it comes to money, finances, potentially when it comes to loans, debts, taxes, investments, maybe when it comes to joint resources, joint assets, maybe also when it comes to financial collaborations, when it comes to business partnerships. You're kind of like ready for a fresh start, but this fresh start, although it's sort of like in the pipeline, it's about to happen. the new one is saying, yes, it's going to happen, but you're going to have to wait, I don't know, like a week longer or like 2 weeks longer, or maybe until Mercury gets out of retrograde, which is 11th of August. So things are moving forward, but there is a bit of a wait. There is this sort of like lull. If you can, before you sign any sort of like papers, before you sign, I don't know, the papers for your new mortgage, I would read them like thoroughly. And part of me almost kind of like feels tempted to recommend that you sign them after Mercury is out of retrograde, but I realize obviously some people cannot do that. The thing is, some papers might need to be redacted again or revisited after the retrograde of Mercury is over. So just as a bit of an FYI, I do believe life is transforming for you Capricorns. Where is it transforming? It's transforming financially. It's transforming in your private life. Part of you does seem to feel excited about the transformation. Part of you seems to feel scared. Part of you maybe is a tiny little bit worried about the financial implications. I repeat, this is a very financially focused new moon. You are not alone, Capricorns. I've said it once, I'm going to say it again. If you're experiencing transformation in your private life, in your home life, in your financial sector, my recommendation is to not think about it as a process that involves you and you completely on your own, because it basically doesn't seem to be true. It seems to be the case that family members maybe are involved, maybe your partner is involved, maybe other people can support you through the transformation. Speaking of transformation in regards to family and family members, you might experience a massive aha moment, a breakthrough, when it comes to, I'm going to call it the baggage that you've been carrying from your family side. And once you experience that aha moment, you might be ready to approach your parents maybe from a completely different sort of like standpoint or perspective, or interact with them from a completely different angle. You might be more confident in your interactions with them. You might be more prepared to be assertive and to stand your ground, even if sometimes that means antagonizing them to a certain extent. Your partner, if you have a partner, if you are in a relationship, could experience a new beginning when it comes to their money, their resources, their financial situation. And as much as you might be excited for them, I repeat, you might be also a tiny little bit worried about what that means for you from a monetary perspective. Talk about it. Open up. Don't delay this. Don't postpone. Do not postpone the talk, because the talk is probably something that has to happen either way, sooner or later. Aquarius suns, Aquarius risings. 24th of July, active, 3 days before, 3 days after. We have a new moon in Leo in your 7th house. The new moon is putting the spotlight on your interactions with others, on relationships, partnerships, collaborations, but also on your competition, your adversaries, I was about to say your enemies, but that sounds super dramatic, so it might not really be enemies. It might just be competitors. The thing is, I believe you might be able to collaborate with someone at the time of this new moon, or sort of like moving forward from this new moon. You might be able to collaborate with someone that you have considered up until this point to be an adversary. I feel like you can finally get on the same page with someone who has been opposing you, who has been maybe a blocker, who hasn't really understood you, who hasn't really seen you for who you are. There is a possibility that you might completely change the way that you interact with this person. So you might go through a massive sort of like reset and say, hey, maybe I've been reading the situation all wrong. Maybe I've been misinterpreting the signs, the cues. Maybe I've been showing up in a way that was not conducive to collaboration, that was not conducive to friendship in in my interaction with this person. So I believe that you're experiencing a bit of a reset in terms of your attitude, and you're probably going to show up differently. So old adversaries turning into, I don't necessarily want to say friends, but I can say friends. Can I say friends? You might be able to turn them around in a nutshell, my dear Aquarians. You might be able to work things out with old opponents. You might even be able to work in collaboration with old opponents moving forward. If you've been experiencing a tough time in your relationship sector, and maybe there's been misunderstandings, maybe there's been miscommunication, maybe there's been things that have gotten lost in translation, especially with Mercury retrograde, I do believe that at the time of this new moon, you can have a really open, honest, authentic conversation and get on the same page with your partner. I'm also looking at business partners. So the same sort of like energy can apply to business partners. If you've been having a tough time working with certain people, I believe that you can finally reach an agreement, and they might feel heard. You might realize, oh my God, I've been doing this thing that's been causing difficulty. And I feel like everyone's sort of like experiencing a boost in terms of confidence and enjoyment when it comes to working together, working in partnership. For some Aquarians, especially Aquarius risings, this new moon can bring a fresh start when it comes to your relationship sector, but it's a fresh start involving someone that you know, involving someone from the past, and this could be romantic. So if you're not in a relationship, or if you're sort of like in a situationship with someone, things could become official. If you are in an official relationship with someone, then things could be taken to the next level finally in some shape or form. Maybe you've decided to have the kids talk, or maybe you've decided that you're going to move in together, or maybe after a very long waiting time, this person is going to pop the question. What question? Engagement question. That's what I'm talking about. I believe you're becoming aware of how you've been hyper fixated on one way of doing things at the time of this new moon, Aquarians, and someone from the outside is pointing this out to you, and they're saying, hey, why are you so obsessed with this approach? This could also be the time when you start collaborating with someone, maybe who you've worked with in the past, when it comes to changing your relationship with yourself and with your physical body. So that is also very exciting. My dear Pisces, Pisces suns and Pisces risings, new moon in Leo, 24th of July, active 3 days before, 3 days after Pisces. What does it have in store for you? Okay, so I can tell you this. The new moon is bringing good news in the work sector and in the financial sector, and I'm really happy for you. Why? Because maybe something that you've been working on really long and hard, and something that you've put a lot of heart into from a professional perspective is finally paying off. Maybe later than you thought it would. Maybe maybe you expected to see results a while ago, but you know what they say, better late than never. And this is late, but it's not never. So enjoy, rejoice, Pisces. Some of you could be starting a new job, but maybe working for someone that you've worked with before, or collaborating with someone that you have collaborated before. Some of you could be entering a new team, or you could be returning to a team that you've worked with in the past. Maybe an old colleague is saying, hey, my company is hiring. Don't you want us to work together again? We've had such a great time in the past when we used to work together. And you, Pisces, might say, wow, that's a great idea. Why not? Let's make this happen. I also believe that you are finally feeling a lot more confident in your expertise when it comes to one particular area of your work. All the trial and error, all the experimenting, all the mistakes, all the learning from your mistakes is like all of that, it seems like it's finally paying off. Speaking of things finally paying off, if you've been meaning to make a change from a health perspective, if you've been meaning to commit to a new fitness regime, for example, but again, it's been on your mind, but you've had other things to think about, you've had other things that you've prioritized, now is the time for you to jump in and to say, okay, I'm hitting the gym. I'm maybe like repurchasing that gym subscription. I'm maybe texting my old sort of like fitness trainer, and that would probably be a great use of this. Oh God, there was a B here. That would probably be a great use of this new moon. Set intentions, set them from the heart, Pisces, when it comes to your health, wellness, and also when it comes to your work. I do believe that you can trust your heart, you can trust also your creative vision. You might actually have a really bold creative vision for your work, especially, and maybe it's been something that you've been sort of like mulling over for a long time. Sometimes you just have to do it. Now, of course, you have free will. You can do it or not do it, but this feels like a good time to just do it. You might launch something for the world to see in the professional space. You might also feel like the spotlight is sort of like increasingly placed on you showing up as a leader, as an authority in the professional space. This is all very exciting. Now, what should you be mindful of? Self-sabotage, Pisces. And that seems to have something to do with maybe some of the people that you hang out with. So who do you hang out with, and do you need to cut some people loose? Do you need to spend less time with them? Self-sabotage can also, in your case, potentially show up as spending too much time, I don't know, on your phone, or spending too much time in a Netflix sort of rabbit hole, or maybe spending too much time playing online. If that is preventing you from getting outside, getting outdoors, moving your body, looking after your health, being creative and proactive in the workspace, then hey, you know what I'm gonna say? Cut that out, and cut out the influences. I'm looking at people that are contributing to that. That's the way that I'm kind of like seeing this energy unfolding, Pisces. Folks, do let me know in the comments how this new moon plays out for you, and I really feel like I have to reiterate this. Take a chance to step into the spotlight. Take a chance to trust your heart and to feed it whatever it craves, let's say. Take a chance to express things to the world. Take a chance to receive attention, because attention is a life giver, like Stephen Forrest says. So, not myself. I did not invent this mantra. And don't be afraid to look at whatever you were passionate about in the past with a new set of eyes, because you're no longer the same people. You're no longer the same person that you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So you might be able to do things better now. Quick reminder, if you want to work with me, you can find me on my website, writteninthestars-astrology.com, so you can book a personal astrological consultation with me via my website. The link is also in the pinned comment and in the description box. If you are active on Instagram, I'm also active on Instagram and TikTok. I have the same handle, Rux Unbelievable, in one word. I do like to post a lot on Instagram stories, just as an FYI, so if you want to follow along for the ride, that's where you can find me. That is my only Instagram account, and also on TikTok, that is my only TikTok account, Rux Unbelievable. If my content is useful, interesting, if you like it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and maybe also to share with friends, family, whoever you believe would benefit from this. Thank you once again for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.